What is going on, comic book gang? I'm Yangtze, aka Year of the Collector. This is part 2 of a compelling story from the pages of The Boy Wonder number 2 by Juni Ba, Chris O'Halloran, and Aditya Bidikar from DC Comics Black Label series. The Boy Wonder is a new take on the already established lore of Damian Wayne, the Robin. The writer and penciler, Juni Ba, takes a creative style of storytelling to tackle the dark and heavy sub-themes in the story of Damian by narrating it as a fairy tale. So, in the spirit of celebrating this great comic book, allow me to voice this story for you. Without further ado, here's The Boy Wonder Episode 2, The Scars of Robin. Once upon a time, behold, the kingdom's hunter, a man of coarse ways with a bitter soul. He stands surrounded by his most recent prey, men with souls darker even than his. But murder weighs on him, for it is unbecoming of the king's second son and apprentice. Red Hood, aka Jason Todd. In the dark coils of their kingdom, the king was protector of all, and the hunter had once been second in line to assist him in that task. But he fell in battle and came back to life. Wrong. The monster who broke him was locked away now, but the hunter still could not let go. Sup, Hood? This meant that despite the king's rule forbidding it, the hunter had adopted more permanent solutions for dealing with evil.
Hey Bill, it's Jason again. I'm sorry. I did the thing you told me not to do. I found the guys who did this to you, and I made them pay. Really pay. You can be damn sure they're not gonna do that to anyone else. Ever.
Naturally, a boy like that was hardened, and yet, believe it or not, he used to live in a palace for a time. One where you could feel safe, silk sheets shielding you from the hardness of the real world. But before the king took him in, he was an orphan boy. So, this life was always what he was destined for, he thought. And that wasn't going to change anytime soon. Not with the king's current opinion of him. He's sure he'd been forgotten about, replaced twice over. You see, recently, the king had taken in yet another new son, one of his own blood, a prince who didn't think the hunter worthy of much. He didn't have the best manners, but the hunter supposed, well, he was still family. The young prince came to the hunter's humble nest to begrudgingly asking for help, completely unaware that his resenting tone and judgment on the hunter was not going to win any favors, for the hunter was not accepting being looked down upon by the prince after what he did, for that was harsh, even for the hunter. The young prince raised his posture and summoned all the bass in his voice. I need you.
No.
People are being taken away.
No.
Only you can help me catch the creature that's doing this.
No.
The prince, not being able to process rejection by the hunter, takes in his surroundings and notices the room with the red door. You don't use that room?
Don't. That's where I store the stuff from my past life. The stuff I don't want to look at.
Oh. He wasn't going to admit it, but he understood that very well. That's the annoying part, when you dislike someone who reminds you so much of yourself, isn't it? Especially if you're lonely. Look, we both know You'd rather not have to explain your failure to Father if anything happens to me that you could have prevented.
Our first duty is to each other. Fine.
You realize that in any other context, you would have found some solace in knowing you're the same, that you share the turmoil inside, and hopefully you can find something to bond over. They'd been looking for a demon, but he found them instead. Had their father been there, he'd have told them to assess the situation first, scan the battlefield for advantages, establish a strategy to get the opponent to reveal any weaknesses. But tonight, the hounds were unsupervised, so, like beasts on the prowl, they pounced. Underestimating their prey, safe to say, Rock got the better of them right then and there.
Screw this.
Hey, I said no guns. Rock had a message for the prince and the hunter, but they had little interest in listening until the prince's mother was mentioned. That was a trigger for the prince to be even more hasty. Rock puts him under a spell to make him still. Rock proceeds to poke the sanity off his eyes, and when his vision returns to him, it's nothing but his worst nightmares. When his senses are compromised, the hunter acts on instincts. Rock bids them farewell, not before hinting at where they can see him again. The hunter is not done, but after hearing the prince's voice struggle, panic settles in. In his terror-induced state, he committed fratricide, shot his younger brother in arms. Later that same night, the hunter patched the prince. The unfortunate incident did not evolve into a fatal one. It was there where the two had a sibling heart-to-heart parley.
I don't want your place. And even if I did, Bruce would never.
From what I've heard, you're the one who hates him.
No, you haven't been here long. But you've seen him do it, right? The Batman. He lives in the darkness to find the helpless and bring them into the light. So, I have to wonder why he couldn't do it
for me. I was his soldier, his ally in his crusade, and I was so proud of it. Do you know what it's like to finally have someone who cares about you and gives you purpose? The worst of them all got his hands on me. I was just a boy. I don't remember the rest well. Flashes. But when I came back to life, I was angry, and I deserved to be. I thought he'd understand, that he'd help me get revenge, but instead, he protected that very scum from me. And after obsessing and wondering for a long time, I understood why. I wasn't his soldier anymore. I was a failure. Hearing this, the prince was beside himself. That's not true. After I beheaded that man, Father was furious. And after scolding me for 6 hours, he told me about you. He didn't describe you as a failure though. He said the failure was his for not knowing how to make it better. And I'm not proud of it, but all through that speech, all I could think was, why can he be as understanding with me? I wouldn't say you're lucky as such, but I guess I always envied you. Dead silence from the hunter. If you ever want out of this room, reach out to Grayson. He's good with these things. He'd say,
just remember, You haven't been abandoned.
Damian might have not been aware of what effects his words could have, since this is something newly discovered for him, kindness and hope. But nonetheless, the hunter was left to his own devices once again. But this time, something dawns a change on him. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and when he opened them, he was no longer just a hunter, he was also Jason, and he was a soldier, and he was a prince, and a protector to this kingdom. So, he picks himself up and makes the decision to walk through that forbidden door. And remember hope. Remember the wonders of being Robin. How great is this story? Personally, I've never seen Jason in this light, and it's very touching for me, if I'm being honest. After Jason's rage and thirst for revenge had dissipated, he felt overwhelmed with regret, shame, and self-deprivation. He took stock of his own performance and aptitude, and he found himself lacking and deserving of nothing. Hence why Damian found him in those conditions, filthy, malnourished, but worst of it all, alone. The physical scars of Robin are too many to count, as we observe in Jason, but the ones we cannot see are the true scars that keep Jason's mind clouded with the notion of being inadequate or just faulty, deficient. Damian's growth, however, is very apparent. He lands on Jason to begrudgingly ask for his help while at the same time thinking very little of him. And at first glance, he felt vindicated by the conditions in which he found Jason. But of course, after actually meeting and getting to know the man under the red hood, he recognized him as a brother in arms that just needed a little help. Unbeknownst to Damian, he might just have lit a fire on the Jason. With that being said, let me know what you think of the story so far. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. And if you like this type of content, share, subscribe, or follow depending on the platform you're seeing this. Finally, I want to thank you for watching. You have a blessed day. And remember to read more comics.